Marquis Rubel's mansion was silent at night. The only noise was made by a girl hurrying to her father's room. Her name is Rena, she is the eldest child of the Marquis Rubel. Her father usually didn't pay attention to her, but tonight he invited her to his room. The girl was turning 12 tomorrow, so she was hoping her father would give her a present. When she entered the room, Rena found that besides her father there was another person. The mysterious man was sitting in her father's chair, which surprised the girl. Rena asked her father what happened. Marquis grabbed the child's hand, hurting Rena. The man in the chair finds this child pretty. He even felt sorry to give her as an offering. But her sacrifice might help them in their plan. Six years later in the capital of the empire, bandits captured the pretty girl. Her maid furiously asks them not to touch her lady. But the maid was very small, so the men thought she was a child. The pretty lady says she is the daughter of the Marquis of the North. They will be in trouble if they hurt her. The leader of their gang doesn't believe her. The Marquis' daughter wouldn't walk alone with a little maid. Besides, she's such a pretty girl. If they don't take her away, the other fellas will. The little maid screams at the bandits to leave them alone. The leader asks the young lady to stop being stubborn, and go with them. Suddenly they hear some noise behind them. Someone had rammed the leader of the bandits into the wall. The stranger was wrapped in many cloaks, so they couldn't see his face. Probably for the first time in the lady's life, someone decided to protect her. The leader didn't want to give up so easily, so he attacked the stranger. The man in the cloak easily dodged him, and slammed the bandit into the floor. He looked threateningly at the remaining bandits, so they quickly took their leader and ran away. The girls were still sitting against the wall in hesitation. The little maid asked what the stranger was going to do with them. Maybe he's a bad guy too. The stranger took off his hood. Underneath was a young man of attractive appearance. He told the ladies not to worry, he would escort them to their house. After a while, the girls came to the tavern where the stranger rented a room. The little maid immediately began to eat the delicious food. The stranger can't believe they decided to follow him so easily. These girls are so careless. The lady says they really had nowhere to go in the capital. Besides, they introduced themselves to each other. Her name is Lena Rubel, and his Lynn. The man explains that knowing each other's names doesn't mean they're no longer strangers to each other. Rena asks if he wants them to leave him. Lynn didn't mean that, he was just surprised. He asks them to relax. Little maid Uni doesn't understand how to relax after his awkward words. Anyway, Lynn asks if she is really the daughter of Marquis Rubel. He's never heard of the Marquis having a daughter. Rena says he doesn't officially have one, but some people know that the Marquis has a daughter. Lynn concludes that she is an illegitimate child. Suddenly he asks if she wants to go home. It's dangerous for her to stay in the capital. What happened earlier may happen again. All because she's a pretty lady. Some people will want to sell her for a few coins. Others will demand something in return for helping her. Rena asks if he wants something in return. Lynn suddenly got up from his chair, and walked towards them, which startled the lady. Lynn puts the knife in front of her, saying he is giving it to her. She must use it in case of need. Rena asks how to do it. Lynn stabbed the fried chicken, saying that if he did something weird, she should stab him. The young man then returns to his chair. Rena smiles at him. She says he is just like her. He's pretty too. The lady shines, after saying that. Lynn can't understand whether she's a silly naive girl, or just slow. That night, Lena Rubel was woken up by some noise. Lynn was right above her, asking her to keep silent. The girl asks if she needs to use the knife now. Lynn tells her to get up, Someone walks into the room. Rena heard loud footsteps outside the door. The door was opened by the same bandit leader. He was followed into the room by two of his other thugs. The leader demanded Lynn to return the girl he stole from him. Lynn suggests him to leave this house while he still can. This time the bandit comes with a gift. He cut his hand, clutching something glowing in it. The bandit clutched an altar stone in his hand. This thing was used to summon the undead into the human world. Lynn can't believe that this idiot summoned the undead, just to take the girl. The monster attacked Lynn in an attempt to tear him apart. Lynn to throw him off, and prepare for the next attack. Rena stood in front of Lynn and the monster. She asked them to stop fighting. Lynn pushed her away, asking her to stay out of the way. He fought the monster while the bandit laughed at the lady. How could she be so naive? Rena said he was the one who was naive. She finds such violence unforgivable. At that moment, the undead attacked Rena. If Lena Rubel had been an ordinary weak girl, the story would have ended there. The noble knight didn't have time to save the lady in trouble. However, Rena cut off the undead's head with a knife. Rena asks why they are so surprised. Maybe they're just naive. The bandit leader squeezed the altar so hard, that it entered his hand. With the incredible power he had gained, he was ready to kill that stuck-up girl. Rena only smiled at him, provoking him to attack. She knocked the bandit out with one precise blow with the handle of her knife. That was the end of the fight. Rena asked the bandits not to touch anything, it could be dangerous. She asked them when this man had gotten the altar stone. The dumbfounded men couldn't say anything in response. Rena then asked what was wrong, maybe her tone was too kind. The bandit immediately said that the leader had found the stone 3 months ago. He claimed it was an accident, but Rena thought otherwise. In any case, the altar belonged to her now. Rena asks the men to take responsibility for their actions. At that moment, Uni crawls out from under the bed. Shaking the dust off her pajamas, Uni said that they could atone for their mistake. She held out her hands to the frightened men. If they gave everything they had, then they would be forgiven. The next morning, Uni was sweeping the floor after yesterday's mess. Lynn asked Rena how he should understand her actions. Why was she pretending to be powerless? Rena answered that she never pretended to be weak, she was just being polite. Lynn doesn't understand, she really wanted to politely let the bandits kidnap herself. Uni says they did it for themselves and the other good girls. They wanted to do some kind of justice, but the main goal of course was their money. Lynn can't believe his ears, those girls wanted to rob the bandits. Rena started laughing, this young man is so honorable. Lynn remembers their first meeting. They really didn't ask for anyone's help. When he gave the knife to the scared girl, he thought he was so cool. But apparently to her, he was really just a pretty guy. Lynn completely blushed. His words from yesterday seemed so senseless to him. Rena doesn't understand why he's embarrassed. Anyway, she asks if he came here for the altar. The altar stone is the key that opens the door to hell. These stones completely changed the history of humanity. Lynn probably heard there was an altar in the capital, and tracked it down. Lynn felt sorry for thinking she was a silly girl. Rena says this thing is now hers, so what does he plan to do? Lynn calmly says that the altar is really important, but he is not going to take it from her. If she wants to keep it, that's only fair. Rena smiled at him. Just as she thought, Lynn is really pretty. She says they didn't need saving, but they needed kindness. Rena thanks him for that, and offers to take the stone as a gratitude. Lynn accepts her gift, but feels he doesn't deserve it. One day he will repay her in any way he can. Rena will be looking forward to that day. She asks if he is going to the Imperial Palace now. Lynn says he is, but she can't go with him because he's already traveling with someone. Lena Rubel wonders who this young man really is. But it wouldn't be polite to ask now. Lena hopes they will see each other again at the palace. Lynn also hopes to meet her there. After their goodbye, Lynn went to the forest outside the city. In the forest there was a rather large group of troops. Tents were set up everywhere. It seems that the warriors were waiting for someone. Commander of the Knights welcomes His Grace. Lynn had already had time to change his clothes to something more befitting his status. He informs the commander that he found the altar stone used by the robbers. Some man shouts that His Grace has found the altar stone. Their 2-day search is over, so they can go home. The armed group saddled their horses, and rode toward the east. Lynn was leading their expedition, but right now he was thinking only of the lady he had met in the capital. Lynn had never seen such strange lady before. She pretended to be powerless, but turned out to be very strong. Lynn wonders how she would react if she found out he was the Duke of the East. The man named Decca asks if His Grace has had a good day. His Grace looks chipper. Perhaps something good happened yesterday. Lynn decides not to answer him anything. After a bit of thought, Lynn asks if Marquis Rubel of the Northlands has a daughter. The relationship between the northern lands and the eastern lands was far from peaceful. Decca thinks that the Marquis had a daughter, but she died a few years ago. Lynn asks if he remembers her name. As far as Decca remembered, her name was Regina, but as a child her name was Rena. Lynn thought Lady Rena was an illegitimate child, but she turned out to be dead. Maybe she was a ghost, Lynn doesn't know, but he's determined to find out the truth. At the same time, Lena Rubel was making her way to the Imperial Palace in a carriage. Uni finds the young man they met to be quite nice. Despite his shabby clothes, Uni thought he might be of noble blood. What an interesting young man. Lena is curious herself. If she meets him again, she will surely find out who he is. Uni suddenly remembered that they had more urgent things to do. She asks the lady what she plans to do when she meets her father. Lena doesn't know. First, she will ask how he's doing, and then she wants to give him a chance. Lena will give him a chance to earn her forgiveness. Until the age of 6, Lena Rubel lived apart from her family. The Viscountess had to concentrate on the birth and upbringing of the heir. The little girl was sent to live in another mansion. All her childhood, Lena suffered from loneliness. Only the portraits of her parents reminded the girl that she had a family. Lena dreamed that one day she would return home. Time passed, and Lena turned 6 years old. A letter came from the main mansion that she might return. The maid said the letter had been written by her parents. Overjoyed by this news, Lena Rubel went home. After years of loneliness, the girl was finally able to see her parents. They were even more beautiful than in the portraits. The child was sure only happy days awaited her from now on. Lena Rubel continued to ride in the carriage. She admired the beautiful views of the capital. Uni shouted that she could see the Imperial Palace. The Imperial Palace was truly magnificent. Many aristocrats had come here to celebrate. The Imperial Palace itself was brilliantly white. But the people in white clothes gave it even more splendor. Uni began to panic when she saw so many people. They would probably not enter the palace until nightfall. Lena reminds Uni that they are honor guests. They can enter the palace without waiting in line. Unless, of course, Uni lasts their invitation. The little maid begins rummaging in her bags. She found the invitation letter. Uni held out the invitation to the knight, who didn't notice her right away. The ladies made their way to the Imperial Palace without any problems. The room allocated to them was dazzlingly beautiful. Uni began to explore the room, wondering what kind of luxury people could live in. The maid noticed that Lena was dressing up, and asked if she was going to see the old gentleman. Rena will see him later. Right now, she wants to meet another person. Uni can't believe that she is really going to her father now. Rena doesn't see it as a problem. Does the child need a reason to see the parent? The guards at the door won't let Rena into her father's room. Marquis Rubel left her a note. The note said the Marquis was still grieving for his daughter. He won't meet anyone pretending to be her. She'd better leave, if she didn't want to make the Marquis angry. Rena asks the guards to tell the Marquis that Lena Rubel wants to meet him. The guards can't do that. They have orders not to let in anyone pretending to be the Marquis' daughter. Someone called out to Rena. The steward suggests the lady have a little talk. The steward escorts Lady Rena to the conversation room. Rena is happy to see him, it has been so long since their last meeting. The steward asks her to stop it. Why is she pretending to be a dead person? Rena can't believe the steward didn't recognize her. He's always been kind to her. When she was 7, she often fell down the stairs outside her room. One day the steward put a rug on the steps from which she was falling. The steward didn't say why he did it, but the girl knew he did it so she wouldn't hurt herself. Because of the rug, the steps got higher and other people started falling. Rena still fell down the stairs, but she no longer felt so lonely. The steward doesn't know where she heard about it, but she has to leave. Their lady passed away a long time ago. If she only knew how hard the Marquis was taking his daughter's death, she wouldn't have dared to come here. The steward suggests the lady have tea, and leave them. He's sorry she came all this way for nothing. He takes something out of his jacket while Rena doesn't see it. The steward adds some powder to the lady's tea. He felt so sorry for her, why Lady Rena decided to come back here. The steward offers the lady poison tea. Rena says everything is pointless. No matter what she says, her father won't to see her. She asks the steward to at least say hello for her. But before she drinks the tea, she wants to know something. What would happen if her dead body was found tomorrow? Rena asks him not to worry, she was just kidding. She calmly drinks the poison tea. After that, Rena said goodbye to the steward, and quickly ran out of the room. Rena rushed into her room. Uni is surprised that the lady came back so fast. Rena ran to the sink, and began to empty her stomach. The little maid was scared. What happened to her lady? Rena asks for help to get up. Her legs are completely weak, she seems to have drunk neurotoxin. Uni is shocked, her lady was only gone for a few minutes, but she was poisoned. Rena says that a kind person gave it to her, she couldn't refuse him. The poison was really strong. If nothing is done quickly, the body becomes paralyzed and then the person dies. Her father really wanted to kill her no matter what. Rena starts laughing loudly. She hasn't had fun in such a long time. Uni can't understand what's wrong with her lady. She asks if the lady has met her father. Rena answers that she only met with the steward. However, she was given this note, which touched her. Uni doesn't understand why she's touched, she should be angry. Rena explains that it says that her father is still grieving for her. She wants to believe that her father is sorry for what he did. Uni doesn't think so, why would she even give this person a chance? Lena Rubel is really confused by all these lies. However, the steward was so naive. He really thought she wouldn't hear the poison added to the tea. His face turned so pale when she looked at him. It was so funny. Uni still doesn't understand why her lady drank that tea. Rena tells her not to worry, some poison won't be able to kill her. The little maid knows that, but still. The pain from the poison will still remain. Uni sat down on the couch beside her sick lady. She is sure that tomorrow they will send people to check if she is dead. Rena knows that, she will greet them first. Uni assumes they'll send an assassin next. Rena finds that option very likely. The little maid suggests sharing the bed. Left side will be Lena Rubel, and the right for Uni. Rena finds her offer interesting, but Uni can sleep in the other bed. Uni wants sleep with her lady, but she has to stop doing rash things. After taking the poison, the poor girl was feverish the whole night. She finds it so unfair, why she always has to suffer. Unable to stay in the stuffy room any longer, Rena went to the balcony. A pleasant melody was coming from a building nearby. Surely the people at the banquet were having fun.
Gave you too much, now I'm swallowed. Now I'm the fool while you're breaking rules. Dangerous path that I follow. Oh, go on, just do what you do. And it hurts as I bleed for you, cry for you. Oh, let me bleed as I bleed for you, cry for you. Oh, let me bleed.
Lynn asks her not to be frightened, it's just him. Rena tells him she forgot to bring the knife for self-defense. Lynn assures her that it's not necessary. In fact, Rena didn't expect that they could meet so soon. She notices his outfit, saying that it's quite different from what he wore when they first met. Lynn tries to change the subject, by asking if she wants to go for a walk. The girl thought it was a great idea. Lynn finds her outfit strange. She went for a walk in her pajamas. Anyway, he won't let her get sick, so he puts his jacket on her. Rena seems surprised. So the Duke of the East and his lady go for a walk in the night garden. Rena finds the situation sweet. Lynn asks if she managed to see her father. Rena clarifies, it's a question or a check. Lynn heard that she was rudely stopped at the door. Rena doesn't hide that it's true, but it doesn't change anything. Lynn then asks why she wants to meet him. Rena finds it unfair. He asks a lot of questions about her, but he hasn't said anything about himself. Lynn says he's from the Eastern lands. East and North hate each other. He didn't want to tell her that, because he thought she would be uncomfortable. Rena didn't expect this. He hid his identity to care about her. The reason she wants to see her father is very simple. Rena wants to have a life, and for that she needs her father to accept her. Right now, she doesn't exist. The name Lena Rubel has been erased from this world. She won't be able to feel alive until that change. Lena Rubel should be dead, but she's still alive. The father has to take responsibility for what he did. Rena knows it's a long way off, she hasn't even been able to see him. This is the first time Lynn has seen someone like this girl. Kind people are gentle, and strong are cold. However, this girl is strong, and also gentle. Lynn offers Rena to go to the east, if the Marquis rejects her. Rena finds him interesting. When she first saw him, she thought he was a commoner. But apparently the next time they meet, she should call him Your Grace, right? Lynn asks her to call him that, only when they are around others. He wonders what he should call her next time they meet. Rena asks to call her lady in the presence of others. But when they're alone, Rena wishes he would call her by her name. Lynn says he walks around at night quite often, so maybe they could meet again. Lynn asks her not to misunderstand him, he just let her know. Rena also likes night walks, so it would be nice to meet here again. The next morning, Marquis Rubel received a letter. In the letter, Rena says she missed her father. He's probably wondering why she came back after all these years. She is also wondering why he did that to her. So, she offers to meet and discuss it. His dear daughter, Lena Rubel. Marquis Rubel asks the steward why she's still alive. The steward himself doesn't know, the poison he gave her was deadly. A maid comes into the room and tells the Marquis what she found out. The person who invited Lena Rubel to the palace was the Southern Duke. The Marquis immediately realized that Rena had fooled him. He roughly turned her away, and then tried to poison her. If he'd known she was a guest of the Duke of the South, it never would have happened. Looks like his daughter grew up to be a clever girl. Meanwhile, in the palace of the Southern Duke, His Grace was filling out important papers in his office. Uni greets the old gentleman. Rena also greets His Grace. She hopes he had pleasant dreams. The Duke of the South's name was Bill Alex Scrasha. He was an old man, but his strength was still with him. The Duke is surprised by her behavior. She arrived without warning, and first visited Marquis Rubel without telling him. Rena apologizes, she really should have visited him first. The Duke doesn't need her apologies. He is now concerned with a completely different problem. Why is the mercenary he hired at great expense, wearing a dress? The war in the South between humans and undead has been fought for generations. The Silent War began and ended in silence. All because the undead couldn't see, but reacted to any sound. Bill Alex Scrasha participated in the Silent War, and lost almost all of his warriors. The undead roamed the southern lands, and attacked anyone who made a sound. When the Duke thought he had lost the battle, he noticed one guy. This guy, completely shrouded in armor, calmly walked across the battlefield. The Duke felt sorry for the young man, who was destined to die at such a young age. But whatever happened, Alex Scrasha decided to watch the young man until the end. The undead surrounded the young man, because he was making a lot of noise with his armor. He had no chance of survival. However, something happened that the old Duke didn't expect. Among the kindling he collected, there was a flame that could burn the silence. The knight who won the decisive battle in the Silent War is known to the people as Executor. The Duke would like to ask the Executor why he turned out to be a woman. Rena knew that this conversation would happen sooner or later. So, first of all, she never pretended to be a man. Uni confirms it. Her lady simply wore armor appropriate to the situation. Bill Alex had nothing to object to, the Executor never said she was a man. In any case, Rena thinks it shouldn't be a problem. After all, His Grace did not invite a man, he invited her. Bill Alex wants to know why she met Rubel from the Northlands. Rena is telling the truth that she is Rubel's daughter, the daughter the Marquis doesn't want to see alive. Bill Grasha realizes it's a long story. He decides not to question the girl further. The Duke of the Southlands reminds Rena that they had a deal. He can ignore her actions as long as they don't threaten the southern lands. As he can see, the situation has changed. He needs to know what she wants from him. The only thing Rena wants from His Grace: protection from bad guys. Bill doesn't quite understand. Is she asking him to fight the Northlands? No, Rena asks him to help the weaker side. Bill Grasha agrees, since they made a deal. However, Rena must know that the safety of the southern lands comes first for him. She must not do anything risky. Rena understands that her victory will go to the southern lands. The Grasha Empire was rebuilt on the lands of the previous empire by the first Empress Nihil Grasha. She rebuilt the capital of the empire, and named it Grandis Grasha. The empire was divided into east, west, north, and south. The Duke of the Eastern Lands is Lynn. He is the illegitimate son of a past duke. Because of his background, he was unable to obtain the title of the imperial family Grasha. The Duke of the Western Lands is Clavis Silendium Grash. He was defeated in the previous war, and now he is a cardinal in the capital. Bill Alex Grasha is Duke of the Southern Lands. During the last war, the South was one step away from defeat. However, an unknown hero Executor turned the tide of battle. Therefore, the remnants of the South's army and the Duke survived. After the death of the Duke of the Northern Lands, his son Uraplinus Grasha inherited the title. In the end, it was the Northern Lands who were credited with winning the Silent War. Conflicts and personal grudges were accumulated during the war. So the duchies became feuding after victory. When the Grasha Empire was 100 years old, the dukes gathered in the capital for an audience. Cardinal Clavis would like to know what happened last night. As far as he knows, Alex Gracia used some girl to humiliate Marquis Rubel. What a crazy story. Duke of the North believes it was low of the Duke South to use a girl like that. Bill Gracia pleads not guilty to what happened. In his opinion, there would be less noise if the North simply recognized this child, and repented. The Duke of the North does not care about this incident. However, why does the South do something that can change the mood of the North? Bill Gracia is enraged by this insolence. Cardinal Clavis asks the Dukes not to fight. Another war will definitely plunge the Empire into chaos. More importantly, why didn't any of them call the Duke of the East to the meeting? Bill Gracia doesn't consider this child of a slave to be a duke. Plinus agrees, they have nothing to talk about with that guy. Looks like the Cardinal managed to change the topic. Some man in black entered the audience room. Lynn, the Duke of the East has found them. Lynn seemed strange that no one wanted to tell him the meeting place, so he had to use force. Cardinal Clavis greeted the Duke of the East, he had found them after all. Lynn sees nothing surprising in this. The rats in this room were squeaking so loudly, they could be heard outside the palace. Bill Alex reminds Lynn of manners. He must observe manners to sit at the round table. Lynn finds it funny. The dukes who go to secret meetings like rats, have the nerve to demand good manners from him. As much as Bill Gracia hates the North, this Duke of the East, this mutt of the Eastern lands crosses all lines. Plinus sees no point in further conversation, so he'll leave them first. Bill Gracia also returns, now there are only 2 people left at the table. Cardinal Clavis congratulates Lynn on his spectacular appearance, but he has to leave too. That was the end of the meeting of the dukes. That night, Lynn went to his room in the palace. When Lynn was alone in his room, he was finally able to catch his breath. It was over. The angry face of the Duke of the Southern Lands surfaced in his memory. Perhaps calling them rats was unnecessary, but what else could he do? Lynn thought it was better to let them hate him, than to ignore him. But that wasn't the only thing Lynn was worried about. He was thinking about the strange girl he had met recently. His men found out that she was a guest of the Duke of the Southern Lands. Rena is helping the person who despises him. Lynn found it extremely difficult to accept the fact that Rena was his enemy.